Blog.
And welcome to episode 47 of the Frogbit Blog podcast. Oh, isn't that a mouthful? Sexy Len is back again. We have our regular features with rich people doing good eco things and ooh ah, I hope it hurt. As well as Ed Sheeran, who is once again on the show talking about his wildlife pond. Today's episode is sponsored by McDonald's fast food restaurants. Nah, only joking. Actually, listeners, Mr. Frogbit is not currently enjoying the patronage of any sponsorship, so the entire production is supported by the goodness of his very own heart, with a few twisted arms behind backs, to be sure. Indeed, if any good people are interested in sponsoring the Frogbit blog, please contact his secretary, Mrs. Frogbit, at the usual address. Thank you, to be sure.
Bloody hell, I invite her on the show to do an introduction. She makes up her own introduction and I can't bloody shut her up. Anyway, thanks, Mary.
The Frogbit Blog.
Because there's so much bad things going on in the world, I'd start with the cutie story. And it's really cute, this story. And it's about this fella that thought his shed was haunted with ghosts as his things kept getting tidied up when he wasn't there. So he set up a camera to see what was happening. And it was a mouse. Oh, how cute. And you can go online and see the video of this mouse tidying up and putting things away in this bloke's shed. He grabs stuff and puts it away into a box, which is lovely, isn't it? So in the future, why do we bother? Why are we going to bother with these tidy robots and stuff when we can just get pet mice and get mice to do it and we'll give mice jobs? Yeah, because mice need jobs. And think about it. I think that's cute. Right, I don't normally go on online advice pages, but this headline came up and I just thought I'd have a read. And this is what it says. 5 years ago, I went through a bi phase and used to sleep around with pretty much everyone that came along, including other men. This changed when I fell in love with my new partner, who is everything to me. I recently met her parents and halfway through lunch realised that I had slept with her father. I was going to propose, but when my partner and mother were away, he told me to end it with his daughter. I'm obviously in love. Shall I just ignore him or tell my partner? Bloody hell, complicated lives people lead, isn't it? And I think the person doing the advice column said, oh, you've just got to leave her and not tell her. But imagine that, though. Imagine turning up to meet your girlfriend's parents for the first time and realise that you'd shagged the dad. And there was all sorts of helpful advice about what the bloke should do. And I helpfully chipped in with, I'd blackmail him if I were you and get a decent dowry. Because he's going to want that kept quiet because he's cheated on his wife to have gay sex, which is nothing wrong with, but he's cheated on his wife and he's telling you to end it. He's the one with the problem. You stick by your guns and get some money out of him. I bumped into Mark the other day, and remember Mark? He was on, he first came on when he was on with Len talking about minimalism, and they were two minimalists, them two, and they got into an argument about who was the biggest minimalist. And then he came back on to tell us about how he got freaked out by a plastic talking tree in the toy store because he was told that if you eat apple core as a kid, you get turned into a tree. And he thought that one in the toy store, because it had a face on it, was a kid that had been trapped as a tree. Yeah, and it freaked him out. I'm not surprised. That Mark. Anyway, well, he said I bumped into him and he said he'd been listening to the show. And after my recommendation, he tried the Linda McCartney fake duck meal thing the other week. And he loved it. And it's great. I never thought I'd end up being some like vegan lifestyle guru, but there you go. I think I might become one of them Instagram stars with loads of photos of vegan food and all that stuff. You know, one of them social media influencers. I think I'd be really good at that. Anyway, here's my vegan tip for the week. We had this last night. We had a friend round, a special occasion, and Mary bought Ben and Jerry's peanut butter and cookie vegan ice cream. Seriously, delicious. Seriously, if you have that, you never have to have dairy ice cream ever again. It was absolutely gorgeous. So give it a try. Ben & Jerry's peanut butter and cookies vegan ice cream. That's my tip for the week.
The Frogbit Blog.
And while we're on the subject of such things, I've talked before about lab-grown meat. Well, it's called clean meat nowadays because it sounds better. And the latest research shows that people aren't averse to it in theory. And it says, a new study is the first to rigorously assess consumer interest in plant-based and clean meat in the US, India and China. The study found high levels of acceptance in all three countries and significantly higher acceptance in India and China, where 86 and 93% respectively reported being at least somewhat likely to purchase clean meat. Which is great, isn't it? Because, you know, I do appreciate that people can't, not everyone can give up meat, but if we could develop lab-grown meat, clean meat, where no animals had to suffer and the environment would be significantly improved, wouldn't that be a better world? There. Right, another good news story. I'm full of them. I want to try and do good news stories because I'm going to talk about climate stuff later, and it's also depressing but inspiring. Yeah, I must admit there are some inspiring things happening, but here's another good news story. They must survive government culls, gamekeepers, poisoning, persecution and increasingly busy roads. But in modern times at least, Britain's carnivores have never had it so good. Badger, otter, pine marten, polecat, stoat and weasel populations have markedly improved since the 1960s. I'll stop. You know, is it just me, or does anyone think it sounds weird when they use a singular term to describe grouping, you know, badger, otter, pine marten, polecat, stoat and weasel? What's wrong with saying badgers and otters, eh? You don't say, I love dog, me, do you? Well, not unless you're South Korean. Anyway, back to the story. The otter, polecat and pine marten are bounced back from the brink of extinction, and country's only carnivorous mammal now in danger of being wiped out is the wildcat. Britain's carnivores have largely done it for themselves. Yeah, badgers are doing it for themselves. And recovered often unexpectedly quickly after a reduction in harmful human activities, which is hunting, killing for fun, trapping and the use of toxic chemicals. According to scientists from Exeter University, Vincent Wildlife Trust and the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. That's good news, isn't it? Come on, badger, otter, stoat and weasel.
The Frog Bit Blog.
Right, Labour peer Robert Winston has called for cyclists to have number plates after he was duffed up by a girl on a bike. Here's what it says. Professor Winston, Robert Winston, the Labour peer and fertility specialist. Does that mean he's got loads of kids? Probably not. Anyway, the Labour peer and fertility specialist has called for cyclists to be required to have number plates after he claimed he was kicked and abused after challenging a woman not to ride on the pavement. In a letter to the Times, Lord Winston, 78, said he encountered the cyclist on Wednesday riding on the pavement in Bloomsbury, central London. After he pointed out that she was breaking the law, the woman became abusive, grabbed my phone and attempted to damage it. She subsequently assaulted me by repeated kicking. He was helped by fellow pedestrians while the cyclist rode off. He identified her as being clearly well educated, in her late 30s or early 40s. Now, I'm not condoning that sort of behaviour at all, but you know what? Maybe pedestrians should also be forced to wear number plates because, well, you know, people are often assaulted by other people on the street, aren't they? Who then run off before we can identify them. Well, if we force the whole country to wear number plates, that's not going to happen, is it? See, Professor Winston, by your logic, that should happen. Maybe you're a professor and you're really clever, but you're not actually that smart, are you? Yeah?
Rich people doing good eco things. Rich people doing good eco things.
Right, now I've mentioned these pair before, but they've been in the news recently because there's a big debate happening in Scotland about the government considering compulsory purchase of privately owned estates to give back the land back to the people. After all, it was stolen from them a couple of hundred years previously, and now most of Scotland is owned by a few rich interests, and it's mainly posh twats that use it to get money from other posh twats by killing animals for fun, especially deer. Well, anyway, there are a pair of very rich non-twats in Scotland trying to rewild the place, and not only that, but also involve the community and create community jobs and stuff. And this is what it says. Danish clothing billionaires Anders and Anne Holk Povsten, the largest private landowners in Scotland, want to remove sheep and cull red deer from the 200,000 acres they own across Sutherland and Grampian Mountains in order to allow native species to flourish. Provided they can prove their project is in the public interest and take it forward in a way that ensures they are democratically accountable, their contribution should be welcomed. Of course it should. They're quite keen to introduce lynx and possibly wolves to keep down the deer numbers, which at the moment are kept artificially high by the deer hunters. Yeah. And if you remember also a while back, I talked about how the introduction of wolves in the Yellowstone Park has really helped with the ecosystem as it stopped deer from overgrazing on certain young trees as they have to keep moving to avoid being eaten. And the article goes on to say, Anders Povsten has unveiled a Grandeurs 200 Grandoirs. What did you say? Anyway, big vision, 200-year vision to rewild his adopted homelands, most vulnerable, precious, and mysteriously beautiful landscapes, and restoring the highlands to their former magnificent natural state and repairing the harm that man has inflicted on them. He rails against the ugly and unnatural commercial forest planted across the country and advocates the widespread cull of deer. Describing himself as custodian of the land, his masterpiece includes the reintroduction of Caledonian pine forests. He hints at one day bringing back wild animals and birds long absent from the UK, such as cranes, storks, beavers, bears, lynx, and even wolves. And he also hopes that endangered animals such as the red squirrel, pine marten, Scottish wildcat, capercaillie and black grouse will thrive again as new woodlands in his estate begin to connect. And he wants to use his land to educate children about the importance of conservation and restore long derelict properties in innovative and always stylish ways to make the landscapes accessible to ever numbers of his visitors, which is great. And interestingly, one of the main objectors of all this work happening are Scotland's ramblers, because in Scotland you've got the right to roam thing going on, and if this rewilding thing happens, then areas will have to be fenced off so that the wolves and lynx don't get out to the rest of Scotland. So there is an issue there, and why not just let the ramblers in to the bits where the wolves are, and it'll add to the sport of the whole thing, won't it? We can film it and watch it on Saturday afternoons. Ramblers chased by wolves. Well, anyway, I thought that was a great example of
rich people doing good eco things. It's not where you're from, it's where you're at, and you can't help it if you're a posh rich twat.
Well, he's been away for far too long, but now he's back after a couple of sessions off. It's
Len again. It's sexy Len again.
okay, back by popular demand. We've missed him, haven't we? Well, Len, where have you been?
It's been too long. I've been out on my bike enjoying the nicer weather.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, and you've had a new job. That's what I said last episode, is that you were too busy with your new career.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah. So, but you've been getting back on your bike.
Yeah, I've cracked it now, so I feel like I have cracked it. So I'm finally doing 5 days a week as opposed to the 3 or 4 that I was previously doing. So,
Nice.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
And how does that feel then?
It feels really good. I was going to bring it up actually with you because I was finding it quite exhausting initially, and I was losing quite a bit of weight, and I was starving all the time.
Is
I
that
was
a
really,
bad
really
thing?
hungry. Well, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think my body started getting used to it, and I've never really. It's been a long time since I've done like intensive exercise, and it's kind of plateaued out now.
Yeah.
So my body's got used to it. So what I'm worried about is going on holiday and then thinking, am I going to get like?
Oh yeah,
You know, I'm gonna
slippery
keep it
slope.
going.
You're going to turn into one of them sort of obsessives that will wherever you go on holiday, you're going to have to find an exercise bike,
That's
aren't you,
true.
in the gym?
Or lump some kettlebells around really. The only thing I've found confusing is those tyre sizes. I've been like looking at like the little symbols on the side and trying to find the right ones and getting used to that.
I think there's 3. It's like because over the years, because obviously cycling's been done for a couple of centuries, and I think over the years 3 different groups have come up with 3 different tyre sizes. So there's the inches, isn't there? There's 26, 27 inches, and then there's which is the size of the tyre, and then there's a times something which is the width of the tyre.
That makes more sense to me.
And then there's also the 70C1 times something else, which is the length and the width. But there's 3 different systems. There isn't a uniform system.
And then different valves.
And different valves, yeah, of course. There's the Schrader and the other one. And,
Indeed.
yeah.
I will get there in the end.
Yeah. So how far do you cycle?
It's about, it depends on where I'm working every single week, so I work on different places. It can be around 100 kilometres a week, sort of around that.
That's good.
So it's not bad.
Yeah,
Not
that's
bad.
good. So you're used to it now. Mm-hmm. So that's the bottom half of your body tone.
I just need to work on the upper bit. Thank you for noticing.
No, I'm not passing comment there. Not passing comment. So anyway, what subjects have you brought in for us to talk
Well,
about?
a few we've got some catching up to do, haven't we?
Yes.
So I've actually read an article that they might be scrapping the daylight saving, which, to be honest, I'm quite excited about because I'm quite sad like that.
No, I mean, it's coming up this weekend, isn't it, where the clocks go forward, and I love that. But the winter one, I find it so hard in October when it's like someone just switches a light off on. It's as if going, right, okay, it's all over, get depressed.
It's brutal, and it's actually there's lots of statistics are supporting the scrapping of it because it increases the risk of car crashes because your body clock's all screwed up, health implications of it, and also for kids and parents, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, well, the weird thing was when I was little in the 60s, they actually did it where they did double saving time, so we were actually going to school in the dark, which apparently is not as bad as coming home from school in the dark because you're more alert, you're more on your way to get there, whereas on the way back there's more kids are more likely to get hit by cars because they've finished school and they're playing around. But I remember people coming into school and they were giving out all sorts of fluorescent armbands. It was a big campaign.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
No, it ran as a trial. I don't know if it was double daylight saving, but no, I hate the October one. But the thing I was trying to work out is which is the right one then.
Well, that's what they're debating right now.
Right.
Well, the EU is anyway, so we might not be
we
part
might
of
not
it.
be part of it, but I think individual countries are going to get the chance to opt in or out, aren't they?
Yes.
I think that's how it's going to work, which will be interesting if Ireland we leave the EU and Northern Ireland has different.
That could start
times
screwing
as
with your brain a bit, yeah.
Because there is an argument, isn't there, if they do double daylight saving and we get much longer summer nights, and it means that more tourism and more money spent.
Very good point.
I mean, I love the summer nights when it gets to May and you look out your window and it's like still 11 o'clock midnight and it's still light.
Absolutely.
We get that up here, don't we? Anyone that's listening down south, you probably don't get I don't think they get
Permanent darkness, that's what I hear.
permanent dark. You've just got warm weather down there.
Yeah, Cornwall was nice.
Actually, we can't complain about the weather. It's been this spring has been lovely, hasn't
Beautiful.
it?
That's big reason why the cycling's been such a success, to be honest.
Yeah. Because this time last year it was still, I think up to March the 17th it snowed. Was the last load of snow.
Don't miss that.
Yeah, not at all. So
next on the list, I was reading an interesting article about basically young blood transfusions, which I don't know if something you've heard about.
I did very briefly. Tell us about it.
Okay, so basically it's people of an older generation thinking that they can basically make themselves healthier, be less affected by illnesses, and actually reverse the aging process by getting blood transfusions of up to 2 litres from a younger person.
That sounds like a slippery slope.
It's about
Do they give it voluntarily? Do they?
Well, you know what? They make about $8,000 a pop out of it, which is, obviously that's quite an earner for some people, I suppose, isn't it? So that's why it's sort of gained in popularity, because you get the richer old people sort of jumping on the bandwagon and thinking this might work, or it might just be a gimmick, and then you've got the younger people making $8,000 a pop out of
how many litres of blood?
A couple.
And can you give that in one go? Is that an all right amount for a young person?
I don't know. I don't really want to test it.
No.
I don't even know if I fall in the category of young person.
No,
anymore.
I suppose it beats working at McDonald's, but there's that whole, you can see that whole dystopia. Here we go again, I'm going on the dystopia, but you can see that whole dystopian thing of the poor will survive by giving their young blood to the rich. I mean,
unfortunately, the research, just fortunately, the research is coming through saying it's pretty pointless and not much actually happens, which is quite interesting, I suppose.
Well, there's going to be lots of other ways, isn't there, that people, because people apparently more now should be living to 100. Is that?
It makes a lot of sense. I think it's kind of it's quite binary in a way. It's going to be like you've got the people are going to live very, very long, and then you've got younger people who have shockingly bad diets that have the potential of like sort of going down the early diabetes route, which is a bit problematic, isn't it?
So it's some people are going to live a lot longer, which is what's always happened throughout history. Because when they do say, "Oh yeah, life expectancy used to be 30 years," that didn't mean that you just live 30 years if you're old, did it? It was because so many people died in childbirth that it brought the statistics down. Whereas if you survived the Black Death, the Black Plague, being humdrum, quartered for stealing a chicken or whatever, you could live just as long.
Yeah, very good point. I've got aspirations for that. I was hoping for the 3 numbers eventually anyway. So
to get to 100?
Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, yes. Well, I suppose as long as you've got your health, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and a bit of mental capacity, I suppose.
But I'm reading the book, and I can't remember the name of the writer. He wrote, he's what's it called? Homo Deus.
Homo Deus. Yeah. I was going to look at that and back. It's disappeared off my screen as well.
Because he wrote the first one, which was
Homo sapiens.
And Homo Deus is meant to be a bit more set in the future. But I've read the first couple of chapters. Although I'm enjoying it, he's repeating himself, and he keeps going on about animal experiments. And I just flicked to this page where he showed this experiment where they drown rats, and I just thought, I don't want to be looking at this, so it's put me off slightly. But that's all about. He talks about the future where the rich are going to live much longer, and we're going to be working towards the point where we're going to try and live forever. Whether we actually get there, but that's the future with all our nanotechnology.
It's like the Frankenstein's theory, isn't it? Where you only die if it was a violent death, isn't it?
Once they start being able to replace all our body parts, then there's every chance that people will.
Not far off, really, are we?
No, and then what will happen?
Don't know. Got the audiobooks, so I'll listen to them.
Have a listen. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I did an article in the podcast the other week about this. These 2 scientists that looked at the data from all over the world and reckoned that the population had actually peaked and it might start going down because so many people in societies across the world, numbers are dropping because when income goes up, people actually want less and less kids. And so they reckon it's going to be peaking pretty soon. But if people start living a lot longer, then it's that's going to be an
interesting shift in society, and sort of maybe retirement ages will change and things like that. So.
Yeah, well, it's already gone up, hasn't it? It's gone up to 67. I'm a year out. I'd have been able to retire 2 years early, but I've got to retire at 67 now. But I'll never retire.
Well, I'm thinking about going part-time now and enjoying it while I sort of can, if you know what I mean. Then kind of just thinking I'll work forever at 4 days a week.
Well, because you're a non-materialist person. You as long as you've got a house and stuff, you don't need all the gadgets to go in it, do you?
Exactly.
Okay, well, we've rambled on. That was very interesting. Thank you for coming in, and I'll see you soon.
Always a pleasure.
Sexy Lanigan. Ooh, yeah. It's Lanigan. Ooh, yeah, it's Lanigan. Lan. Ooh, Lan. Ooh, sexy Lan. Ooh, Lan.
Right, there's lots of climate stuff in the news, as usual, but as it should be, is the most important issue facing humanity probably ever, really, anyway. But we'll start with old Trumpy Pumpy, who's been up to his usual tricks again. This week, he said President Trump apparently knows exactly what's wrong with wind power. Wind power won't work because the wind only blows sometimes, he explained to Sean Hannity. Trump also insisted on Thursday evening at a rally in Michigan that he knows a lot about wind. If it doesn't blow, you can forget about television for that night, he said. Well done, Donald, for spotting that the wind doesn't always blow. But, we have these things called batteries that can store power. And anyway, besides this, you'd think someone with the surname Trump would know a thing or two about wind, wouldn't you? It's that nominative determinism again, isn't it? You're more likely to follow a career based on your surname. And Trump ended up being a bag of wind, a bag of smelly wind. What else on climate? Well, Mary Robinson. Remember Mary Robinson? She was the ex-Prime Minister of Ireland, and then she became UN Commissioner for Human Rights. And what she said is that climate denial is not just ignorant, but malign and evil. That's probably Northern Irish. I believe that climate change denial is not just ignorant, it is malign, it is evil, and it amounts to an attempt to deny human rights to some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. She also told The Guardian that she supports climate protests, including the school strikes for climate founded by superstar Greta Thunberg. I have been calling her Greta, but Mary pointed out, my Mary, not Mary Robinson, pointed out that it's probably Greta. So anyway, Greta, I'm sorry about that. Greta Thunberg. Anyway, superstar Greta Thunberg, apparently, and that there is room for civil disobedience as a way of communicating that we also need hope. Good on you, Mary. And back in America, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC to the cool kids, has been sticking up for the Green New Deal. You know, this way of transitioning the economy from off a carbon-based economy. And it's very, very positive things that are happening over in America. And hopefully in this country, we can also sort of take that on board. Anyway, in Congress, Republicans claimed that it was elitist. Yeah, the Green New Deal is elitist. Yeah, all those multimillionaire congressmen who take hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars from fossil fuel companies claim that AOC's Green New Deal that also offers free healthcare, paid work to transition to a low carbon economy is obviously elitist, isn't it? Well, obviously, yeah, giving people healthcare and jobs to change and look after the environment, very elitist. Anyway, she stuck it to them, and this is what she said. I'm going to play a bit of what she said here.
This is not an elitist issue. This is a quality of life issue. You want to tell people that their concern and their desire for clean air and clean water is elitist? Tell that to the kids in the South Bronx, which are suffering from the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country. Tell that to the families in Flint, whose kids have their blood is ascending in lead levels. Their brains are damaged for the rest of their lives. Call them elitist. You're telling them that those kids are trying to get on a plane to Davos? People are dying. They are dying. And the response across the other side of the aisle is to introduce an amendment 5 minutes before a hearing in a markup. This is serious. This should not be a partisan issue. This is about our constituents in all of our lives. Iowa, Nebraska, broad swaths of the Midwest are drowning right now, underwater. Farms, towns that will never be recovered and never come back. And we're here, and people are more concerned about helping oil companies than helping their own families? I don't think so. I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan. We are facing a national crisis. And if we do not ascend to that crisis, if we do not ascend to the levels in which we were threatened at the Great Depression, when we were threatened in World War II, if we do not ascend to those levels, if we tell the American public that we are more willing to invest and bail out big banks than we are willing to invest in our farmers and our urban families, then I don't know what we're here doing. I don't know what we're here doing. That the government knew that climate change was real starting as far back as 1989 when NASA was reporting this. And the private sector knew way back in the 1970s. So we had until around the time I was born to address this issue. I wish it didn't have to cost so much, but I'm going to turn 30 this year, and for the entire 30 years of my lifetime, we did not make substantial investments to prepare our entire country for what we knew was coming. So now it's coming all up at the end. It's like when we live our whole lives and we don't eat healthily and we don't move and we pursue unhealthy activities. And then at the end of our lives, our healthcare costs are very high. We have the choice to lower the cost now, because I can tell you the cost of pursuing a Green New Deal will be far less than the cost of not passing it.
Yeah, well said, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. You keep fighting the good fight, and we're going to feature you more often when you say good things.
Oh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt, ha 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 ha. Oh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt a lot. Hey!
3 poachers were killed in the Sibia Game Reserve in South Africa, but not by men. They were eaten by lions. It is believed that the 3 men illegally entered the game reserve to poach rhinos. Instead, they found themselves in an unusual and deadly situation. They strayed into a pride of lions. It's a big pride, so they didn't have too much time, Mr. Fox told the news agency. We're not sure how many there were. There's not much left of them. Right, so Mr. Fox is the man in charge of the lions, again for the second time this episode. Nominative determinism at work. Anyway, the lions needed to be tranquilized before anybody could approach the remains of the poachers. Because of this, the bodies were not recovered right away. Eventually recovered at the scene were 3 pairs of shoes, various limbs, and a head. In addition, equipment often used by poachers for cutting off rhino horns were also discovered. Some people felt the poachers got exactly what they deserved. Ricky Gervais, who's a comedian, actor, and writer, director, posted dryly, "Rest in pieces." Oh, Ricky. Anyway, you know what we all say to this?
Ooh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt. Ha, 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 ha. Ooh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt a lot. Hey! Ooh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt. Ha, 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 ha. Ooh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt a lot. Hey!
Right now, Paul from Cramlington sent me this, and it didn't actually appear on any of my news feeds, so thanks for that, Paul. And it concerns a certain Mr. Ed Sheeran, and believe it or not, it's actually from an Irish newspaper about Ed's home in Suffolk. And it's weird, isn't it? Because real life is now imitating art, because I'm telling you, he is Irish, and the more I pretend he's Irish, the more he's actually turning Irish. Anyway, remember last year I told you he was hoping to build a meditation chapel in the grounds of his land, and it was banned because it would disturb great crested newts. And I got him on the show, and he came on and he sang his Feck Off Newt song, which went on to be a huge disco hit. And to be honest, it did revive his flagging career, because he was flagging by then. He was only having like 4 or 5 number ones a week. So I like to think I helped Ed in my own little way. Anyway, Ed's been in trouble again, and it's about the wildlife again, and this is what the Irish Times had to say. Angered neighbours of Ed Sheeran have claimed that a wildlife pool, in inverted commas, on his Suffolk estate could actually be used as a swimming pool. The local council gave retrospective planning permission for changes to the pop star's pond, which was built last year. Not now, it was last year. It said it must only be used for wildlife and not for swimming or any other recreational leisure activity. Oh, I wonder what that could be. Anyway, a planning application submitted on behalf of the 28-year-old singer-songwriter. Is that all he is? He's been around forever. Did he start when he was 6 or something? Anyway, a planning application claimed a jetty and 2 steps would form interest in the pond, form interest to the pond, and enable access in the event of maintenance and emergency, with the additional steps of handrail and jetty. What sort of emergency do you get in a wildlife pond? You get frogs that forget how to swim. Anyway, it goes on to say, I am a huge supporter of the creation of ecosystems. Actually, he's probably not Irish, this bloke, is he? He's probably from Suffolk, but anyway. I'm a huge supporter of the creation of ecosystems, especially when it comes to ponds and wetlands. What I would hate to see here is that this is taken one step too far and transformed into an area of development that is no gain for wildlife that lives there, but only to add to the amusement of those that reside at the property. Tony Robinson wrote, who the fuck's Tony Robinson? Where did he come into this? Is it Tony Robinson, Baldrick from Blackadder? Tony Robinson. Obviously, he didn't write this bit. I'm just ad-libbing here. Anyway, Tony Robinson wrote, I believe that the development of the site is more about creating an environment for a wild lifestyle rather than actual wildlife. You see what he did there? He used the word wild to mean 2 completely different things. Anyway, plans to build a Saxon-style chapel on Sheeran's estate were last year rejected after a wildlife group voiced concerns about the possible impact on great crested newts. Sheeran's team has been approached for comments. Irish Times might not get a comment from Ed Sheeran's team. What does that mean, Ed Sheeran's team? Does he have 11 footballers all kitted up and ready to go? Anyway, because of me helping him with his flagging career, he said I could phone him up any time. So here goes. It's ringing.
Ed Sheeran, protector of wildlife here.
Hi Ed, it's me, Frogbit.
What, you been bitten by a frog?
I've got me emergency steps into me swimming pool. Me wildlife pond for that. Anyway, what the feck do you want? Well, funnily enough, I was ringing to ask you about your swimming pool. Wildlife pond, because Paul from Cramlington sent a story to me that he found in the Irish Times. Is Cramlington in fecking Ireland? No, it's in Northumberland, I think. Well, feck me. He goes a long way to get his daily paper, doesn't he? I did that, or I feel sorry for the feckin' paper boy. No, Ed, I think he read about it online. Online? Feck, you can get anything these days off the internet, can't you? Well, yeah, apart from planning permission for meditation chapels and swimming pools, obviously. Hey, less of that, you sarky fecker. So, Ed, tell us the truth. Did you really want to help out the local wildlife, or did you just build it for your own recreation? Well, to be honest, I wanted to do a timeshare with the frogs and the newts. In fact, I wrote a song about it. Oh, God. Oh, dear. Well, thought you might have. Let's hear it then. I just want to say, it's nothing like me feck off newt song. Never let it be said that all me songs sound the same. OK, get on with it, will you? Just put us out of our misery. Here goes, then. Nothing like me last one, this is. Hear it now. Here we go. Well, I'm sick of the men in suits. Couldn't build me a chapel because of the newts. So I thought I'd build a swimming pool. But me planning application broke the rules. They said you can have a wildlife pond where your frogs and newts swim all day long. So I dug myself a massive hole and filled it up with H2O. And the froggies and the newts, they came. I said, fellas, hey, what's the game? So I built myself a diving board just to play when I get bored. Look, if I'm bored, we're bored, but the spell's different, so that's okay. Anyway, carry on, I've lost me thread now. And when I want to have a swim, to the froggies and newts I start to sing. Oh, fick off newts, fick off newts, fick off newts, fick off newts, get out my pond, get out my pond. Get out my pond. Though you can have it back in a bit though, but for now, get out my pond, because I want to swim in there. Whoa, Ed, that was wonderful and so original. That sounded nothing like your feck off newt song. Well, I don't like to blow my own trumpet. Oh, believe me, I've tried. Anyway, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but it's effing great, isn't it? Yeah, if you say so. And maybe you can win one of those BAME awards now with that. Well, I hope so. Anyway, I'm going for a swim in my pond. Bye now. Bye. He's kind of growing on me, Ed. At least he's trying, and God loves a trier, don't they? Don't he?
The Frog Bit Blog.
And talking of frogs, I was cycling home from work on Friday, and I go to this country park that's full of wildlife. And on the path, there's a busy part of the walk. There's lots of bikes and dog walkers and such like. And I saw something on the path, so I stopped, and there was 2 frogs having it off. And I thought they might get eaten by dogs or run over, whatever. So I picked them up in flagrante, as they say, and moved them into the long grass. And I'm not sure, is it illegal to pick up shagging frogs? Anyone know? Sexy frogs. Ooh, sexy frogs. I should have took a photograph and put it on Instagram to prove how nice I was, but I didn't. Anyway, you're just going to have to take my word for it. So that's all I've got time for this week. I'd like to thank you all once again for listening. I'd like to thank Mark for the thing about the recipes. I'd like to thank Len for being on. I'd like to thank Paul from Northumberland, from Cramlington in Northumberland. No, Northumberland in no, you know what I'm saying. And Mary for introducing the show. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll be back in another couple of weeks. So have fun. Bye.
The Frog Bit Blog. The Frog Bit Blog.